Hello my beautiful badgers, I'm going to do a quick video to show you how you can use the new input system with Messy's easy settings toolkit. I haven't imported MEST into the project yet. You can do it before or after you actually put the new input system in, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to show you quickly. If we go to the Unity registry and we go down to the new input system, you're going to need to use 1.11 and above. So don't use the 1.02 because we need to use some of the rebinding methods that are available in this one and above. So anything from here upwards is perfectly fine. I'm just going to go with the lowest one, just because it's the lowest supported one that I need. Here we go, and it does its magic and puts everything into your project. They've also got their own samples in here where they've got some rebinding samples that you could use. See this message pops up. I'm going to click yes, and then it will enable the API. Wonderful. Now you see it's currently installed, and down the bottom it says remove instead of install. As I was mentioning, they've got a load of samples here that if you want to include in, you don't need to use any of these in MEST, but you can if you want to. It's up to you. I'm going to close that. And I'm going to pop back over here. I'm going to show you the project settings. We're just going to go to the player, and we're going to see that actually it is changed over to the new input system. Wonderful. Now down here you should have the scripting define symbols, but if you don't see it like here, you don't see it, do not worry, because actually in the new versions, the 1.111 and above, the input systems scripting defined symbols are actually there hidden behind the scenes. So let's cross our fingers and hope it all works. If you're using an older version of Unity, you might need to manually copy in the scripting defined symbols for the new input system. Now, I've only really tested this with 2020 3.0 and above. Oh, well, actually, yeah, and above, because that's the minimum version that we're allowed to upload to the store. If you're using an older version of Unity, I don't know if it's going to work or not. Give it a go and let me know if it works. Entirely up to you to have a play about with that. But it's not supported. It's 2020.3.0 and above are the official supported versions. Right, let's import it into our scene. Great, it's imported into our project, and now I'm just going to create a folder down here. I'm just going to call this demo. Just put things in, and we're going to right click, create, and over here we're going to go and create our input. So we want to, where my eyes are not working, input, right down the bottom, input actions. And I'm going to call this one demo input. There it is. And if we double click, I'm going to just dog this over here. You can then create your control schemes. I'm going to call this one diff or gameplay or game. Yeah, gameplay. And in here, you're going to select which ones you want to support. So I'm going to put a gamepad and a keyboard and keyboard mouse. Is it? There we go, mouse. There we go. In. And then you can go and create your action maps. I'm going to call this one main or game. And here you can create your actions such as movement or whatever. So rather than me sit here making all of these, I'm just going to load up an example. There we are. I've made an alt version, so very important, one limitation of MEST, and it should be sensible, because I don't understand why some people would do it. They'll put the alt set of movements inside the same composite as the main one, which is weird, because how would you know which one's which? So what I've done is I've got a move direction composite, and I've got an alt move direction composite, and they're separate. So the up, down, left, right keys, up, down, left, right here, and you can map them separately, but they are doing the same thing. They are up, down, left, right. So put that when you're coding into your game, you'd have the composite. Here's the move on the action. Both of these going to work. Moving for the move action. I don't know why you would put that. I've seen some examples where they put them in the same and then it just messes things up. It's even messier. Oh dear. Okay, so now we've got our inputs and we know that we've got a limitation that each composite must only have one set. And you can also have, you don't need to have composites like over here. The E button for the interact is just the E button by itself. It's not made up of multiple ones. Okay, now we need to just make our folder for, I'm just going to put resources folder, and inside my resources folder I'm going to right click MessyCoder, MEST, and a settings manager. I'm going to call this manager, and here I'm just going to change it to be saved in my documents. And over here now, if we click on the play button, we can choose input binding down here, and we can choose input action because that's the time we're going to use. If I drag over my manager, no, drag over my action reference, oh, hang on, like here, I could, let's move that scroll down. I could move in my move like this, or I could just click here and find the one I want. So gameplay move, there you go. So just making sure it's the right one. Boom, yeah, it's that one. And once I've moved it over, suddenly we've got all these options here available, which as you can see, they're the same as the options on the left here for the move. So we've got left stick, we've got move and alt, and we've also got the individuals. So you don't need to bind for the whole composite set. If you do want to just do the up on a button or down on a button, you can do that also. And here, exclude mouse inputs means that if I'm clicking my mouse button, I won't accidentally be binding the mouse buttons when I want to be binding these keys. So I'm going to have that ticked. I'm going to give it a menu name and it's going to be move. Wonderful. Now we've got our bound. I'm just going to go to the demo folder and open it up just to give us a head start on this tutorial. So if we go into burp, because I'm using built-in in the pipeline, and I go here, it's going to ask me to import in the Text Mesh Pro Essentials, and it's also a good idea to import in the samples so we can have some of those lovely fonts. Wonderful. Now in our demo scene, I've got in the save load script, and I'm just going to drag in my manager, and I'm going to go over here. I've got my events for my messy settings events, and I've also got in the settings controller as well. I've dragged in the main camera, and I've also got here a rebind overlay, this little square here. So this is the rebind overlay, and also the text that's inside the rebind overlay goes in here. And we've got some duplicate binding message, and I'm going to use the curly brackets, saved value already in use. Down here, a new feature you might not have seen in the last video is the event types. So I've created some event types. As you can see here, we've got the controller ready, menu, and the save binding and start rebind events are also now available. So when my controller wakes up, I'm hiding the panel and I'm actually hiding also this rebind overlay. This panel here is what I'm talking about. So I've got on a cancel rebind. So you know here I've got extra ones here that I haven't yet used. So the cancel rebind event, when you cancel rebind, I'm going to clear the text that's in this little panel, this small panel here. I'm going to clear this text and I'm going to hide the panel. Same was with the completed, but on a duplicate binding, I've dragged in. Let me delete that. I'll show you that from the beginning. So on a duplicate binding, I'm going to click down here. I'm going to drag in the panel because we want to see the panel. So game object set to true. And if I drag in the text of the panel, because the duplicate binding is sending through a string, I can just go here, Text Mesh Pro, click on text, and it will automatically update the text with the event string passing through there. Wonderful. So now we want to actually see the menu, don't we? So I've made this sample here, and I've got two buttons in the sample, so we can have the main one and the alt one. So down here on the button. I'm going to click add component, and we're looking for the settings menu item. So clicking that, and then down here, clicking on input binding move. That's the one we're using. And I'm going to click on the button because we want a button. I'm going to open up this little badger and going to find the button. There's our little button, and drag in the button here. Now we need to do a couple of things. We need to drag in the text of our button over here so we can update, and I also want to drag in the label as well so we can update the label. Brilliant. We could also put some additional text if we did a value hello like that, but I'm just going to leave the dynamic text blank so that it just will load up the default values. And we could also add in events here if we want to. Entirely up to you. I'm not going to do it for the sake of this demo. This option here is if you want to change how the writing is shown on the button. I would suggest leave it on nothing, otherwise a lot of text gets added in there. So you don't need that. And I'm going to do the same for this button over here. So to do that, we've got to go back to our resources, and I need to create another set here. So I'm going to go input binding. I'm going to go input action, choose our move. This time I'm going to choose the other set, and it's going to be alt move. I'm going to name this. I'm going to exclude the mouse again, and we're going to add it to this button over here. So I've already got their menu on there, and I'm going to click alt move and button because we need the button. Drag in the button here and drag in the text of the button over here. We don't need to have a label because we've got the other one. So let's cross our fingers and hope this works. All right, let's click on our inputs. Oh, okay. First thing we notice is the fonts in the demo are messed up because when importing the demo scene in Text Mesh Pro, it's just reverted back to the default fonts. Also, while this one has the correct value, but look, it's not looking beautiful, is it? We could do that auto size there. This one says S and that says down. What did I do wrong? So let's go to the manager and we'll say, oh, I've accidentally selected the down rather than the composite. So I could have it as just the up or the down, but in this case, I want the composite. So let's click play again and go over here. And now it's got the correct values. Let's just quickly clean up these texts here though. Let's click on these, change the font to be bangers because I love bangers, I really do. And over here, gonna put auto size, and we're gonna limit the size for it to be 30 as a max. You know what? Limit 28 as a max. There we go. Brilliant. Okie dokie. So now when we click play, let's see what happens. And looks much nicer, doesn't it? Although that could be bigger. We can actually make that auto size that. There we go. And now if I wanted to rebind this, I'm going to click on that and binding up, waiting for input action. I'm going to change it to Y. Down is going to be H, left is G, and right is K. And now it's bound. Let's see how it handles the duplicate. So we're going to go and say Y, G, G again. Oh, G is already in use. Okay, G is already in use. Let's change that to an H and a H again. Oh, H is already in use. Okay, what about up? Oh no, up is already in use because it's in use by the alt. Okay, I'm going to go with an S. That looks really upsetting to see that as your bound direction keys. But there you go. It works. So as you can see, the event is being fired for the duplicate, and it's actually on the controller here that it's listening to that duplicate binding event, and it's going to put the text in this object here, and it's going to show that parent panel. So it displays it. And when we've completed that binding, so it's accepted a binding, then it's going to remove the text and hide it, as we can see now. There you go. Very easy to use, very easy to get started. I hope that helps. I'd love to see what kind of menus and games you're working on. So if you do like it, click it. Till next time. If you want to see more of my crazy videos, click on the left side of your screen now, and down below there's that big juicy subscribe button, and right next to it is the magic bell that if you click it, it will tell you if I've got a new video coming out. Till next time.